Hey everybody, Green Newfie channel continues answering a question today, and I thought it'd be easier to do a video because I get asked this a lot. Actually been asked 2 or 3 times since I started the channel. I responded to somebody's comment somewhere, but I have no idea where it is. I think this is a good question for the Facebook masses. If somebody posts something on your personal scroll, and I respond to it, I tried to find a way to transfer it over to the Green Newfie site, and it sent over a picture, but it didn't send over the comments. So I'm trying to get more things on the Green Newfie site and not as much on my personal scroll, so I can have a life outside of all these health stuff. Although I'm always chuffed to bits to answer questions, but I did respond to this to somebody already. And if it was you I responded to, maybe you can post it just to keep me honest. But the question is frozen vegetables versus fresh vegetables. Is one better than the other? And the answer to that is a resounding maybe. As soon as any vegetable at all is picked or cut, so it's growing on a vine, it's attached, the roots are attached to the earth, is getting nutrients and growing bigger and bigger and getting more nutritionally dense. At some point, every vegetable or fruit has a point where it's at its peak. And if you cut it right at that peak, and then you start the process of shipping it to another part of the country, it just starts dying from there. Now, there's all kinds of studies online, like even breaking down Brussels sprouts are this and carrots are that and blah, 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 blah. And you can look and see how long it takes some vegetables to start deteriorating. The problem is, so the original question, frozen versus fresh, what's better? Well, the problem is that in a lot of commercial grow operations, like in California and down in Mexico and Central and South America and all that, they will cut the vegetable, they'll harvest before the optimal time it's ripe, because they know there's going to be a week or two involved where it has to get shipped from where they are to wherever it's going, anywhere in the world, right? And the thing is there's a difference between ripe and there's a difference between nutritionally dense. So like they'll pick avocados in California that are nowhere near ripe. Same thing with strawberries, same thing with bananas. You've all seen green bananas in stores and you've seen yellow bananas in stores. Well, the whole world likes yellow bananas more than green bananas. So they pick them when they're green. It takes 2 weeks to ship them wherever they're going to ship them. They're yellow by the time you get them out. Now, to eat them, that's great. But in terms of nutritional density, it's not great. Because the minute you go snip, it all starts to die. And then the question is how much percentage of the nutrition is being lost by the time something is cut before, here's the trick. If you cut a vegetable before it's at its nutritional peak, just to do the cosmetic thing in getting it on the shelf so that it's appealing to your eyeball and not appealing to your system. The second you cut it, the nutritional, it's continuing to grow nutritionally stops, and it actually starts to degrade. So the ideal is waiting for a red bell pepper to be full size, right at the perfect time to harvest it, cut it, and then eat it. But that's impossible. So what they do is they harvest them early, send them off, and then lo and behold, they're there. But the problem is if when you do that process of cutting and harvesting vegetables before they're fully developed, just so that they look better to the eye by the time they get to the grocery store, it's underripe basically when you pick it. And the second you cut it, the nutrition just stops. So the answer to the question is possibly. If like Newfoundland, if you're shipping it to Newfoundland, it's a couple of weeks, right? It's a week or two to get there. So all that food starts to break down. Now, let's look at the other extreme. Freezing. What happens when they pick vegetables for freezing is the exact opposite. They wait right up to the last second when it's nutritionally as dense as it can possibly be, because they know they're going to blanch it and flash freeze it, right? So what they'll do, first off, they'll blanch it, right? Blanching is a process of putting in boiling water, and it cuts off the enzymes, and it just freezes everything right where it is. And then they flash freeze it. And once it's frozen, at its highest nutritional density, the case could be made that it's better for you to eat a frozen vegetable of some kinds than eating fresh off the shelf in an area that it's taken 2 weeks to send it to. Now, if you're in California and you walk into a Whole Foods or a Trader Joe's or something like that, and they've harvested the fruit and literally a day later it's on the shelf, or you go to Lester's in St. John's or Mount Pearl or wherever that is on the border, and they pick something in the field, get that in you right away, because that is better than both. That's better than frozen, and it's better than something on the shelf. So it's a complicated answer. The blanching has its benefits of locking in the right nutritional density from when it's picked, but it also destroys nutrients in the process. You'll lose water-soluble vitamins in the process because it's actually put in water and blanched. But the freezing process, like if you take two vegetables, obviously, and put one on a shelf and you freeze, you take celery and you pick it and you put it on a shelf, and it takes 2 weeks to get to the shelf, and then you bring it home and you put it in your fridge for a week and you forget to eat it or whatever, compared to celery that was picked, blanched, flash frozen, put in a bag and put in your freezer, that'll stay good. It's still going to lose lose nutritional content if you leave it in your fridge too long. So you don't want to put frozen vegetables in. Like people have peas that have been there for years and they only use them when they get a headache, and then all of a sudden they're making a paella or something and they need peas and they go, oh, I'll use these peas. They're dead. They're just little green toppings is all there is to it. So, the end result is to just eat as much as you can, right? Go to the store, buy your vegetables. If you can find a good quality frozen vegetable package as well, eat those as well. It's six of one, half dozen the other. If you're living in a major center that has good access to farming and good quality foods, then 9 times out of 10, eating it fresh is better. But if you're living out in the sticks, like we do, Newfoundland, remote areas of North America, right, in smaller towns and all that, where there might not be a lot of farming or whatever, then frozen is a perfectly good way to do it. But ideal is grow it and pick it and eat it. And if you can get down to a local farmer's market, that stuff has usually been harvested the day before, so that's ideal. So hopefully you live in an area that's got a kick-ass farmer's market, and that's the way to do it. But in the meantime, fresh or frozen, doesn't matter. Just keep shoving it, keep jamming it in you, as the Thomas Trio would say. So long may your big jib jaw. Remember, it's going to draw a lot longer and further if you feed it the right nutrients. Have a good weekend, everybody.